everyone, and welcome to season 2, episode 20 of the Big at the Back podcast. Matt has kept me on season 2 in all of the thumbnails, and he's the one that does the editing, so he gets full control over it. I'm just the mouthpiece, but Matt's the one who holds the real power. How are you, Matthew?
I mean, editing is really overstating it. There really is not much of a process there, but I'm all right. I played my first game of football out on pitch for about 15 years yesterday. I think I worked it out. It was about 15 years. So I can barely walk today. It has been a rough 24 hours for my legs, back, everything. But it was worth it. It was a good laugh, and we won, and I scored a goal. So that's all that matters.
Was the being unable to walk due to the shower time afterwards rather than the actual football match?
Well, I'm sure I had a helping hand. A little bit of both. How are you?
I'm good. It's January. I have not drunk since December the 28th, and I already feel so much better for it. I got into a stage where I was just in a mode where it's Christmas. I'm getting drunk all the time. So after the last little outing, I decided to cut it for a while, and it seems to have done some good at least. I wouldn't say lots of good. I'm still myself, unfortunately. But
my problem is I'm still eating like it's Christmas. I got in. I was out a bit on Saturday. I went to a housewarming during the day, and then went to the pub for a friend's birthday in the evening. I got home, and I ate an entire sharing bag of tortilla chips. Just
nice,
sitting there watching. I think I was watching the NFL, and I was just tucking in. And next thing you know, it was empty. I was like, I need to sort my life out.
Yeah, I'm on a strict calorie cutting. I stepped on the weighing scales and realized, oh damn! I've also got some of those scales that tell you all your data as well. So it's like my body fat percentage has gone up about 4% in the last 3 months. That should probably change. I should probably work.
Is it 69%?
Well, it was. See, 69 was the perfect number. Now it's 73, and I don't like it.
Damn it.
So, knives aside, we still are talking about FPL. We won't talk too much about the last week because it feels like forever ago. The FA Cup's been in between, but we've still got one game left. That's Chelsea versus Fulham. No Mitrovic. I've had a shocking game week. I'm hoping that the Chelsea clean sheet will at least salvage something. So I've got Aspi and Kepa. How are you looking this week?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a shocker, really. It's currently on 37 points.
Oof.
Yeah, so red arrows for me. Only real returns so far being Trippier, the man, the myth, the legend. Mitrovic, but obviously he's not getting anything further. And Marcus Rashford, who I did briefly toy with captaining, then sort of changed it to Haaland sort of last minute, who provided me absolutely nothing. So yeah, wish I did go with that. That would have at least boosted me up a little bit. But I've still got Kepa to play and Andreas Pereira as well. So I mean, they're probably going to counter each other anyway if Pereira gets anything. So I think my best bet is a Chelsea clean sheet. But it'll probably be a 1-0 Fulham win, and I don't know, like Willian with a goal or something.
Yeah, well, Tim Ream with a bullet header from the edge of the box.
Don't.
But yeah, I'm on 40. The only difference is I captain Mitro, really. But I've got Kepa, Aspi, and I've got Andreas Pereira, of course. I think the problem is everyone has Andreas Pereira to play. So I think the only differentials or the only rank changes are going to be in those Chelsea assets.
Yeah.
However, we are on the verge of coming into a very exciting week, and that is a double game week. Now, we're going to talk about the fixtures and what's coming up because I have a bit of a dilemma. So the doubling teams are Manchester City, who play Man U away and Tottenham at home, Crystal Palace, who played Chelsea away, Man U at home, Tottenham Hotspur, who play Arsenal at home and Man City away, and Manchester United, who play Man City at home and Crystal Palace away. So of those 4 teams, I'm going to just go and discount Crystal Palace. I'm not interested in owning them. If you want to be really differential, go and get Zaha or Eze or...
Don't do it.
But yeah, that's the overwhelming advice. Don't do it, I guess. I mean, if you've got 2 free transfers or for some reason you're on a wild card, then I guess they're fair game, but I wouldn't be rushing any of them in.
Or if you're an absolute psycho and a free hitting.
I certainly wouldn't do that. Oh, I'm not sure actually. That's a definite option. But I'm in a bit of a pickle because after his performance, and I've been saying since the break, I'm scared of Kane. I'm scared of Kane. Well, he gave me reason for saying all of that this week, and there's no way I don't want him for the double, right? I know it's Arsenal at home and Man City away, arguably two of the toughest fixtures you can possibly ask for. However, I think there's goals in both of those games, and I think Harry Kane is probably going. He loves the North London derby, and he scored against Man City last season. So I really, really want Harry Kane, and I'm prepared to move heaven and earth to make it happen.
I am in a similar boat, really. I think the only way I can make it happen, I do have 2 free transfers, which is very helpful. So I don't have to take a hit. It still even could be worth me taking a hit to get another doubler in at somewhere. But this is potentially one of the weakest double game weeks that I can remember. Like there's no team with 2 good fixtures. Most of them have got 2 pretty tricky fixtures. So you are just sort of hedging your bets a little bit. But I think, the only way I can really make it happen is if I get rid of Salah, which I'm not exactly against at the moment. Brighton are an informed side. Liverpool still look awful and leaky, and now Van Dijk's out for at least a month, so that's going to be more of a struggle for them. So, I think if I move Salah on, I can bring Kane in. It will have to probably be for Mitrovic because there's no point in dropping Martial, who's on a double as well. And Mitrovic is playing Newcastle, don't get me wrong, Mitrovic is obviously a fantastic player and he can make things happen, but Newcastle are a pretty astute defensive outfit now.
Fulham's next 3 games are Newcastle away, Tottenham at home, Chelsea away. So 3 very tough games. After that, they get
Chelsea.
We'll get to them in a bit. But I actually think I'm probably going to lose Mitrovic as well for the next 3 games. I'll bring him back in for Nottingham Forest 100% because that run is quite a bit easier. But I'm along the same lines as you. I also think Salah's going to go for 13 million without a double game week. He's blanked in his last 2. I'm just not convinced by him. And with Gakpo signing, it means Darwin's playing more central, which means Salah will stay a lot more wide. So what that means is far less in terms of FPL returns, less shots on target, less attempts, a lot more crosses, and a lot more opportunity for assists. So I actually think it's going to be great for Darwin, but I think Salah's going to be the one that goes in my team at the moment. He's almost certainly out. I guess I've got a few different options. So the way my team is looking, I've still got a Reece James problem at the back. I then have the problem of I've only got a couple of doubles. So Cancelo, who knows if he's going to play both games or even a game. Haaland, okay, he's going to be captain. And I've also got Rashford. So what that means for me is I need to make some moves. Now, I've got 1 free transfer, but I think I'm looking at a -8 to be able to make Kane work, which is really bold, but I think if I'm going to go after this game week, I'm going to go after it. My thinking at the moment is dropping Reece James, Mo Salah, dropping Mitrovic. I'm still covered for Liverpool going forward in Darwin because I think he's going to be the one to own moving forward. But then if I drop Reece James, I can get a defender. Now, Nathan Ake is a potential, or even Doherty for Spurs, even though they've got 2 impossibly tough games and they will concede. You can see the North London derby perhaps being a 0-0. So I think Doherty's a really good option because he can get attacking returns as well. And then in midfield, I think I'll take Salah down to Anthony or Riyad Mahrez. It depends if I want to play that game or not. Then I'll take Mitrovic up to Kane. That's where my head is at the moment. The safe option is just to go Salah to KDB and leave Kane out. 2 really tough games for Harry Kane. Good chance he doesn't get anything. That would be the sensible option. But sub being sensible, it's more fun to go really bold. That's my thinking at the moment. What do you reckon?
It's so difficult, isn't it? Because you throw out a name like Riyad Mahrez, and instantly I'm thinking, what about Foden? And I'm like, and I'm like that's that answer then. But you just always Pep roulette is always there, isn't it? And it's always a worry. Because I'm thinking, Yeah, I'm thinking the similar things about who I can get in for dropping Salah. The good thing is, like, if I take Mitrovic out for Kane and drops and remove Salah, that leaves me with I think about 9.5 mil in the bank. So I can afford most decent assets.
But
But
you have
like,
Bruno.
no, he's about 9.8 or 9.9.
Uh,
So he's just a little bit out of reach.
he was a
Um,
really good option for these two games. Like he's got 3 assists in his last 3, and he's been the third most creative player in the Premier League this season in terms of big chances created and actually chances created as well. I think he could be a
Yeah, the
really
only players I can't afford are De Bruyne, Son, Bruno, and Sterling. Obviously, Sterling, no go. Son, no go. De Bruyne can't afford anyway. He would be one that you'd definitely be lining up if you could afford it. I could potentially look at taking a -4 and get De Bruyne in and drop someone else as well to make up that little gap, which is an interesting idea. The other person I'm still looking at, and we've been talking about him for quite a little while now, nowhere near this price bracket, is Martin Odegaard. He still looks the real bee's knees. I don't know if he's playing tonight. I'll just see because lineup should have been announced. I would imagine that Arsenal will be playing no, he's not playing tonight. So Martinelli plays, and Nketiah plays, Saka plays, but Odegaard does not.
So my thoughts on Martin Odegaard is I can bring him in next week. I definitely want either him or Saka, and doubling up with Martinelli and White for game week 23 when Arsenal double.
Yeah.
I also think it could be really bold having the 3 Arsenal midfielders in there for 23. But I definitely will be bringing in an Odegaard or a Saka for next week, essentially. But for the double, I want to focus on players with 2 games. If it's a -4 to bring them in, then it's only actually theoretically a -2 because they're playing double the amount of games, which is what puts me off Riyad Mahrez. My gut feel is Riyad Mahrez will probably start one game and play one game on the bench. Now, will he return? Probably. But also, Anthony could return as well. And Anthony will start both games. Where that leaves
Famous
me
last
between,
words.
well, famous last words. But I was also speaking to a Man City fan at work, and he was actually saying, if you're looking at defenders from Man City, then look at Akanji. He's been our best centre-back this year. I don't really agree. I think John Stones has, but definitely an interesting option. Only thing putting me off is Akanji was benched for the FA Cup game. So what are your thoughts on City? Would you go near them defensively at the moment, considering the Cancelo drama?
The Cancelo thing is just really winding me up at this point because
Mm.
you can't drop him
No.
because he's one, they've got 2 doubles in the next 4 game weeks, so you can't drop him because of that. And the other reason you can't drop him is because he's João Cancelo and his record when he plays is incredible. But I don't know, is like, why is he just not getting all these minutes at the moment? And City aren't exactly tearing up trees in terms of clean sheets and things like that. So it's really tough. But I think you just got to stick with Cancelo. If you want to double up, then go nuts. But obviously, you've probably got Haaland because if you haven't, you're a mentalist. So you've got one spot left, and is that going to go to another defender or potentially a midfielder? Obviously, you've got Pep Roulette to contend with. It's just so difficult. I do agree that Akanji's been brilliant. It's almost quite scary that he just came in after the season had started while the window was still open from Dortmund, and he just slotted into that team, and you haven't really even noticed, which I think is really quite a good sign. He's just fit in with their style of play perfectly and picked it up so quickly. So I don't think you can go wrong with any of the City assets defensively, but it's just always the worry about doubling up on a defence that hasn't been great. Cancelo being rotated in and out, and I think you get more bang for your buck with the midfielders if they play.
Yeah, it's the big if, though, isn't it? Cancelo's rotation, who would have had that down in FPL bingo? He was the most nailed on City player, and then 4 games in a row, he gets hauls at like 45 to 50 minutes. I've just checked. I can go Reece James to Lewis, so I'm covered regardless of which City defender plays. And then I can go Salah to Bruno and Mitro to Kane, which I'm not saying I'm ruling it out, but there's certainly a lot of options. I also think as well, if you've got lots of these players already, and you've also got, say, an Almiron, for example, I'm not opposed to moving him out for an Ericsson for the double game week if you want a bit of a 1 week punt, because you're going to move that on to an Arsenal player anyway at some point. Why not now? I don't hate that idea at all.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I think Almiron, not having a double, but Newcastle's upcoming fixtures are quite tasty as well. So it's you'd move him straight back out probably, but is that potentially a wasted transfer when I guess everyone's teams are different and you've got to know what you need to fix and plug holes and fill gaps. Like me, I'm now looking at could I potentially take Martinelli out this week for someone that's doubling and then bringing him back in from potentially the Everton game onwards. But it's just you're constantly fiddling around with things. And then I'm looking like I've still got Andy Robertson in my team. Why have I still got Andy Robertson in my team?
Yeah, that's probably not quite right. It's like me with Reece James. They're just kind of there and you don't want to get rid of them. I'm also looking of going, maybe I just do a -4 and I forget about Kane, because 2 really tough fixtures for Kane. Maybe I just go Salah to KDB and Reece James to Doherty and do that on a -4.
But that sounds really boring.
It's less fun and less exciting, but maybe more sensible.
But when did we ever start being sensible? That's not what we're about here.
That's not what we're about, and it's probably not what I'm going to do. But
if you talk yourself out of Kane after you've been going on about him for the last week since he played, you are going to absolutely kick yourself when he scores 4 goals in 2 games.
The thing is, I'm not going to be captaining him. And those are arguably the 2 hardest games, and he doesn't have any more doubles coming up. KDB has another double in game week 23. So what I'm doing by getting KDB is setting myself up now for that double. And by doing this, I'm freeing up the money to next week go Almiron to Odegaard.
But do you not always worry? So you're setting yourself up for 23, but there obviously is something to be said for long-term planning, but there's also something to be said for take the points while they're there, and then you haven't, because if injuries come up, you look like a right idiot.
Like Reece James.
Yeah, exactly. Which has just made me realise now that I'm taking Robertson out for Luke Shaw. I'm doing it.
I don't like Shaw at that price. I don't like it.
Have you seen his returns since we returned from the World Cup? Have you seen him?
I don't think he passes the eye test. I mean, I don't know why I'm just suddenly against Luke Shaw.
Would you like me to tell you his returns in the last 3 game weeks?
9, 10, and 12 or something like that.
8, 9, and 15.
But they were against really tough teams, and Man United have. I guess they've got they were against really easy teams, so I guess they've got Crystal Palace as part of this stuff. Maybe I could go Shaw,
They've got Crystal Palace twice in the next 4 games.
Yeah, and Crystal Palace are a pushover at the moment, aren't they?
Like after their double, it's Arsenal, which is, yes, a tough fixture. Then it's Palace at home, Leeds away, Leicester at home, Brentford at home.
Am I just being stupid? Am I really not? I think Luke Shaw is probably the one to go for, isn't he? Let's be honest here.
The answer to the question, are you being stupid, is almost always yes.
Rather than looking at a City defender when I don't think City will keep a clean sheet in any of the next 2 games. Well, they probably will against Wolves at home, but then hopefully Cancelo will play for that. Then it's Spurs away, then it's a double, but that double includes Arsenal. Yeah, whereas Man U, they've got Arsenal next, but you can bench Shaw for that, and then they've got Palace, Leeds, Leicester, Brentford all in a row. I'm talking myself into Luke Shaw here. What am I doing? Why are you making
it? Do it.
You know what I think I will? I think I'm talking myself out of Kane.
Ooh.
I think it's going to be Salah to Kevin De Bruyne and Reece James to Luke Shaw. And then that gives me enough money in the bank to next week take Almiron to Odegaard. And I can then, the week after that, move Asp down to a 4.5, Botman perhaps, or someone else, TBC. But I like how the team, and that's only a -4 rather than -8. I think that makes a bit more sense, and I think I can go clip this. I think I can go without Kane.
Just making a note. 20 minutes. Oh, you're going to regret this so much. I'm now looking at mine, and I'm thinking -4. Robertson out, Salah out, Mitrovic out, and income Shaw, Foden, and Kane. And then I'm gonna be burnt by Foden again. This is happening. After he went on that.
Why are you doing this? He hasn't been starting. He started in the FA Cup, but he was benched the 3 games before that.
Yeah, but he started and scored, and that means something. That means something.
Mahrez came off the bench and got 2.
No, he started.
Mahrez got 2.
Yeah, but that means he's more likely to be benched. This is how Pep works.
No, because there's a League Cup game in between now and then, so don't make any transfers to after that League Cup.
I'm not making any transfers. But that means that.
I mean, you can clip this as well. I think it's too risky to go for a Foden or a Grealish or a Mahrez. Any of those City attacking assets are just too much of a risk, and you don't want them long term. You know you're going to get burned long term.
Yeah, but my idea is then the only reason I'm doing this for that double, I'm tempted from, and this is a little bit rogue, from 22 onwards. Well, probably after 23 because that second double. I'm tempted by Cody Gakpo, depending on how he starts.
Ooh.
I like him. He passed the eye test in the World Cup. Yeah, he had a great first half of the season for Feyenoord. I know it's in a Liverpool side that aren't exactly putting up trees at the moment, but
they're still getting returns attacking. But I think Gakpo's going to play out on the left. Darwin's going to play a lot more centrally. Salah's going to play wide. Does that make Darwin better? I think it does. I think Darwin, he's got an okay goal scoring record when you look at just the stats. Look at the chances he's had. He should have had loads more. However, he's going to start putting them away. And when everyone takes him out, that's when he's going to get a hat-trick. Can you see him going to Brighton and scoring a hat-trick? I can see him scoring, at least. Probably. I can see him getting a brace. I think everyone's moving Darwin out, and rightly so. He's been shocking finishing-wise. Against Brentford, he was actually really unlucky not to get a goal on multiple occasions. I think it's coming for Darwin Nunez, and because of other areas of my team that need fixing, Reece James, I think I'm sticking with him.
I think he took his goal really nicely in the FA Cup as well. Very nice finish. And yeah, he had the goal disallowed against Brentford for offside. So I think he's not like an absolute, you must get rid of him now. I think he's one that if you're looking around at your team and going, who should I get rid of? And you haven't really got any Reece James problems, then he's one that you're probably looking and going, okay, I can probably shift him on and get someone in a little bit better in that sort of price bracket. But I don't know, maybe it's just clouding my judgment that I do think Liverpool will come good, but it's Klopp's 7th season syndrome, isn't it? It's striking hard again.
Oh, it's also, if you look at Liverpool over the past 10 years, significant underinvestment versus the teams around us. Realistically, Klopp's had one summer where he's actually gone out and spent in his entire tenure at Liverpool. When you consider all of the teams around Liverpool, all of them have outspent us so hard. And it's really, really, really catching up to us, I think. So defensively, Liverpool are in absolute states right now. I don't know why there's so many defensive problems. A word, though, since coming back from the break, Trent defensively has been wonderful.
He's been an improvement, I'll give you that much, but the bar was so low to start with. I know he's injured now, but Van Dijk has looked a shadow of his former self. I remember those sorts of season when you were winning the league, and it was like Van Dijk went X amount of games without anyone dribbling past him. It went on for like over a season without him being dribbled past. Now it looks like you can just walk straight through him. I did hear a stat about the amount of big chances that you've given away so far this season, and I think it's like 41 in the league. which I think compared to the last time you won the league, I think you gave away something like 50 in the entire season. So just giving away that many chances obviously is going to lead to more goals, which means you're more reliant. You're going to have to outscore teams rather than just being able to shut up shop and keep them out. And when your attackers aren't really doing the business like they were back then, because they're all a little bit older, Salah's not in the same form he was been since he signed that big contract. He seems to have dropped off a little bit. Plus injuries obviously have not helped. The loss of Mane, I still feel like people have sort of underestimated how big a part of a cog in that wheel he was, because like since he's left, things have really taken a downward turn.
I'm not sure it was just down to Mane. I think that's part of it, but also Diaz not being able to play. Jota, who I think is, as soon as he came back, we looked like the Liverpool of old. But then he got injured that very same game. Came back to beat Man City and then got injured again.
At least you got Curtis Jones, eh?
Oh my God. Every time he comes on the pitch, it's just a guarantee that we're losing. I think I text you in the last league game against Brentford. Right, Curtis Jones is coming on. Brentford are about to score, and then they got a second, and then they got a third. It was like, oh, it's so predictable. If Curtis Jones wasn't from Liverpool, if he was like Italian, he would never see game time, never in a million years. But because he's a local lad, Klopp likes to churn him out for the fans. It's infuriating.
Or, from my perspective, it's hilarious.
How are West Ham doing this season, Matt?
Well, at least we're through in the FA Cup. At least we haven't got to go to a replay. We managed to beat Brentford's reserve team.
I mean, considering your form at the moment, I'd take it if I were you, taking them right.
A win is a win is a win. The Leeds game wasn't great, but it was, I'd say, slightly less shit than recent performances. We at least got a point. Disappointing to have turned it around, to come back from 1-0 down to go 2-1 up and then to lose it, to lose the 2 points. But there was some bright sparks in there. Skamaka picking up another goal, very nicely taken finish. Fabianski made a few good saves as well. The only real disappointment again, I think, was as Jared Bowen, still not finding his form. Paqueta getting his first goal for the club as well could be big. Hopefully that pushes him on to better things. He played a little bit deeper like he played for Brazil in the World Cup, and I think that's where we'll see more out of him. But we have still got holes we need to plug, and hopefully a couple of signings in January will help us out. But, you know, there's a lot of work still to be done. Moyes is lucky that there's no really good managerial candidates out there at the moment, I think.
Yeah, I think he is as well. I think otherwise he'd be in a bit of trouble. Let's move on and talk about a side that we both like dunking on, which is Chelsea, because what on earth has happened to Chelsea? I think the fans were singing Tuchel's name, which is telling. Potter arguably has, if you look at it, all he's ever done in his whole managerial career is won a cup in Sweden. If he was of another nationality, there's no way he'd get that Chelsea job. It's the same as Frank Lampard. It's not as bad as Frank Lampard getting it, admittedly, but it's very, very similar. He's arguably a failed manager. Yeah, he'd done okay with Brighton, but Michael Laudrup did better with Swansea. Like, why was Michael Laudrup not given a job like Chelsea? Because that would be ridiculous. But because he's injured, people shone a light on Potter. And now he's got the Chelsea job. He's completely out of his depth. Not sure I agree with this, but I'm just playing devil's advocate for you. What's your thoughts?
The job he did at Brighton was fantastic, and no one can really doubt that or deny that. I think he will come good. I think they've got to give him time, because when you have that much outlay on a manager, bringing him in, bringing all of his backroom staff over with him, and basically bringing half of Brighton's recruitment team as well, which has been so rightly praised, the sort of recruitment they do. You look at the likes of Matoma, who's breaking through this season, who I think they signed for about £3 million. And like the trick is to find these players and buy them when you can buy them for £3 million rather than the £40 million it's probably going to cost to sign someone like him now.
But the difference is it's a different type of job at Chelsea. I think at Chelsea, you're the club buying for £40 million, not the club buying for £3 million. And if you look, if Chelsea had appointed a bloke with a track record of one Swedish cup in 15 years of management that wasn't English, would the English media and would fans be giving him the same easy ride as Potter? I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And just to give some context, Jose Mourinho, at the same stage of his career as Potter, had won 12 trophies, including the Champions League with Porto. In my opinion, you earn the right for that to get that top job. You don't just walk into it because you're English. And unfortunately, that is what's happened with Potter.
I still think he will come good. Like I say, he's got to be given time. He's got to be... Because when you've had that amount of outlay on bringing a manager in, you can't then just sack them after, 15 games or whatever it is he's had, if it's even been that many. I can't remember off the top of my head. You've got to give him a transfer window, I think, to do his dealings and build his team, because obviously he brought Cucurella over, but he hasn't really had a chance to build the side that he wants. Injuries have obviously been a concern as well. They've been struggling. And when they haven't really got a striker, I mean, I know they've got Aubameyang, but can you really count him in 2023? I don't think you can. It looks like the rumour today is they're going to sign João Felix on loan for the rest of the season. So it'd be interesting to see how he comes in, if he does. Obviously, I think he was one of Portugal's better players in the World Cup in slightly more of a withdrawn role. But
Chelsea, it's Chelsea.
That's the thing, yeah. It's like
Kai Havertz.
How many players do Chelsea sign that do have with big names that come over and do nothing?
So many.
And I've always said it, always will say it. Kai Havertz is a terrible footballer.
I don't think I've ever heard you say that before. Might be the first time.
Breaking news. You heard it here first.
I think we're in agreement on Kai Havertz, but Chelsea have signed so many young, great players. How many of them have ever lived up to their potential or succeeded at Chelsea? You have to go back to Frank Lampard, essentially, really. Maybe an argument can be made for Mason Mount, but even he's a massive disappointment when you put him in the same bracket as other players. So I think Chelsea is where players' careers go to die.
I mean, it's a strong statement. It's very strong. But yeah, I think they need to make some moves in this transfer. They need a proper striker. That is one thing they are in desperate need of, because at the moment, no matter how many chances they create, and let's be honest, they're not creating loads. It's not as though they're a team full of players that are making chances. But the few that they do create, they need someone that's going to be on the end of them to finish, and you just don't feel like they've got that at the moment.
Completely. Another team that really need a striker are the ones with double game week, Manchester United, because...
What do you mean they need a striker? What do you mean? You know who they're getting.
About to get Wout Weghorst, which is going to be amazing. We love Wout Weghorst on this podcast.
Do you know what the best thing is? There's the love triangle going on here. So it looks like Besiktas are sending Weghorst back to Burnley so he can go to Man United. Man United have obviously got rid of Ronaldo, who's gone to Al Nassr, and Al Nassr have had to release Vincent Aboubakar, who looks like he's going to now end up at Besiktas.
Wonderful. Interesting. Manchester United. Do you think that Anthony is it too early to call him another flop? And Anthony and Jadon Sancho, Manchester United has spent 160 million on two young wingers who have both really, really failed to impress. Now, Liverpool have just signed Cody Gakpo, who's better than Anthony, for less than half the price. I still think Man U are the same old Man U. And Weghorst is just, I mean, he's better than Cavani, admittedly, better than Falcao, admittedly, better than Rooney, better than Ronaldo, better than any striker who's ever lived. But I feel like strategically, it's very much more of the same from Man U, overpaying for average talent.
I mean, it's a bit of a weird signing, isn't it? Let's be honest. I don't know what is it just like they need a body?
They don't have the money after signing Anthony, or they don't have the money in this window. So they spent £85 million on Anthony, and it's completely swept under the rug. But that's absolutely insane for a guy that's got about 3 goals on the season so far.
Yeah, but he does take a really good free kick routine.
That's true. But wait, are you talking about Anthony or Weghorst?
Weghorst, sorry.
Of course.
Anthony does.
Yeah. You lost me there. When was Anthony's routine?
No, sorry,
They're
yeah.
amazing.
Anthony, I don't think it is too early to say he's a flop. He's got a long way to go still. He's young.
He's completely one-footed. Rich Jolly put a really good article together about how he was completely one-footed, and actually he was really predictable to play against.
Yeah, but Arjen Robben was completely one-footed. But if you're good enough at it,
different. Arjen Robben was just unbelievably good. I mean, his left foot was unreal and unmatched to this day.
That's the thing. If you're good enough at it, no matter how like with Robben, you knew what he was going to do every time, but he was so good at it that the trick was to try and stop it, which was obviously very difficult. If you can become that good at it, then obviously you're going to give people trouble. But yeah, Anthony isn't at that level, but he is still young. He obviously bagged himself a goal in the FA Cup as well at the weekend. So I don't think he's a bust yet. I think he's got to be given time. I think that now that, again, we keep coming back to this, but now that Ronaldo's gone and that front four is sort of Ten Hag's front four that he does want, with Martial, Rashford, Bruno and Anthony, they've got a lot of fluidity there. They've got a lot of pace. So the four of them between them, I think, can make things happen. And I think he will be a key part of that for the rest of this season.
Yeah, I happen to agree. Let's now look at some more FPL assets, because I think there are some that are slipping under the ones with a single game week. Now, Liverpool going away to Brighton could be pretty tough. When you also look at Brighton, they played unbelievably well last week, beating Everton 4-1. Now, that Mitoma, the young player, if he gets chances against Liverpool, he's going to absolutely bury them. And if there's one thing we know about Liverpool at the moment, they love giving away chances.
Yeah, and De Zerbi, now that he's had a bit more time, I think when he first came in after taking over after Potter, it was just a bit like erratic. But now I feel like he's really coaching the side a bit more. He's managed to put his imprint on them a little bit more. And the fluidity they have going forward, like Mitoma with the ball at his feet, he looks an absolute joy to watch. His dribbling skills, taking people on, really giving people trouble. Like, he had a really good game against Arsenal just after, was just after Christmas, like in that period between Christmas and New Year, I think. Was it New Year's Eve? Oh, I can't remember now.
Yeah, it was in that period.
It was New Year's Eve. Yeah, it was New Year's Eve. He had a really good game then. And if it wasn't for an offside as well, would have had another goal. So he's the sort of player that when Brighton have a good run of fixtures, which they have got a decent run coming up, the only issue is they haven't got any doubles. So and he's got another one of those midfielders in that sort of price bracket where you've got a lot of good options. I know he's pretty cheap. I don't know exactly how much he is, to be honest with you, but he's not going to be any more than probably about 6 million at absolute most, I would imagine. So, and then they've got that run coming up. Leicester away, who are struggling a bit again. Bournemouth at home, Palace away, Fulham at home. Then Newcastle, which is obviously a tricky one, and West Ham, who they beat every single time they play them. So that is a good run of fixtures for Brighton assets.
I think I wouldn't bother looking at the Trossard or the Gross. I really am keen on that Mitoma though. How much is he in FPL?
Yeah, go on. I'll leave you to find that out. But the other thing was the interesting thing to see is that it sounds as though McAllister's going to be playing a little bit further forward now as well. With who someone picked up a knock. I can't remember who's now out injured. So he's saying about deploying McAllister further forward. And after
the thing, 4.9.
That is a bargain, that is.
Yeah, I really think I will look to get him in at some point. Maybe not right away, but maybe over Andreas at some. Who knows?
He's in that sort of price bracket, so especially these next few Fulham games are tough. So Pereira is probably only going to be bench fodder for these next 3 game weeks. So yeah, there is potentially an argument there. You can get Mitoma in over Pereira, which. Who'd have thought we'd be talking about replacing Pereira?
Oh my God, Pereira, the golden boy, the hero, the legend. But I really do rate that Mitoma. I think he could be really good. In terms of this game week, who are the most underrated assets or the assets not being spoken about? Because I think we should use this as an opportunity to speak about them. I really don't mind if someone's looking at a Varane or even like a Casemiro for Man U because he just mops up bonus points. If you're on a wild card, if you're mad enough to be in a wild card, I think these are options you definitely can consider.
The problem is, right, if you're looking at Man U assets, you're going to have Rashford, let's be honest. He's going to be probably the first one that you're going to have.
Yeah.
Midfielder, very good price, in form, and sort of almost out of position really in there as a midfielder. I know he is playing out wide, but to have him as one of your midfielder spots, that's one spot taken up. Then are you going to want another midfielder if it's Casemiro or Eriksen or someone like that? Martial is obviously on a lot of people's minds still, but he seems to be like, I don't know, obviously scored in the first game back, but then since then he's missed good chances, and you just sort of think, is he the one? Sure, a lot of people have got Shaw now. I know we sort of talked you around to having him, but I think he is the other one that people can have. And another one is Diogo Dalot as well. He played in the FA Cup, so he's back from injury now. So, and before he was out, he was mopping up bonus points like nobody's business.
I might go for Dalot over Shaw because he's going to play. He's going to play over Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah, you'd imagine so.
So I think I'm going to go for Dalot. I think that's a better move than Shaw. What do you think?
Double up, I dare you.
Absolutely not. Just because then I will have to stick a -8, and that would not be worth it.
The other thing is there's other teams like, I know we're focusing on the doubles at the moment, but there's other teams at the moment like Brentford are in a good form. They've got Bournemouth at home. I know they're still probably going to be without Ivan Toney, but Johan Visser has come in and really hit the ground running and picked up where Toney left off, and Mbeumo is looking good as well. And look, I mean, let's be honest, they tore Liverpool to shreds.
Yeah, but most teams are defensively at the moment. I wouldn't look at Brentford defensively. I would look at them going forward though. Leicester are in a bit of a rut at the moment as well, aren't they? Who have they got? Oh, Nottingham Forest. You're not going to buy them. I mean, if there's one team you want to play when you're in a rut, it's Nottingham Forest.
No James Maddison though. Still, Maddison's still out injured, so like they're really missing out there, and obviously just about scraped past Gillingham in the cup on Saturday when they did have the likes of Iheanacho and Vardy playing. So it wasn't as though they were going out there with a complete beating. But I don't know. I feel like, especially without Maddison, I feel like they're really going to struggle to turn things around soon.
Yeah, I agree. Another team that are in absolute dire straits at the moment, they've lost the last 6 and drew the one before that, are Southampton. Now, they've got Everton away. That's a 6-pointer. If Southampton don't get a win here, then they are in deep trouble. Likewise, Everton are really, this is their only easy game before they've got West Ham away, Arsenal at home, Liverpool
well,
away.
There's 2 big games at the bottom of the table this week, and that is, this week. West Ham Wolves and Southampton Everton. They are 2 huge games. And if you look at West Ham's fixture after that as well, it's Everton. So they are 2 huge games for the club. And obviously with the transfer window now open, dealings are being done, the relegation battle really can be hotting up now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And it's going to be, I think Southampton and Everton in particular, one of them is going to go down. I think in the next 3 or 4 seasons, both of them will go down. They're both on a sliding slope. It's almost inevitable for both of them. But I think it's probably going to be Southampton this year. I think Everton have just done enough and played the right teams at the right time to slip out of it.
It depends, because if they don't get a win this weekend, Southampton at home, you'd imagine that's Lampard gone. Like you'd assume so.
In which case they'll get better. So
and then who do they bring in? But then the next 3 obviously is West Ham away, like we just said. That will then become even bigger. And then the 2 after that are Arsenal at home and Liverpool away. So if they could be in a situation where they've got like 1 point out of their next 4 games, you're really struggling.
Yeah, that's definitely tough. Interesting. Lots to play for at both ends of the table then. City Arsenal is going to be awesome. I can't wait for it. Martinelli is never leaving my team this season. He's just so good. Every game I watch him, he looks great. Probably should have got some points against a really good Newcastle team. Are Newcastle in the title race?
No. I just think they're a little bit off still. Like they're obviously well and truly in the top 4 race, and you're probably saying they're
Fulham, Crystal Palace, West Ham, and Bournemouth. They'll probably win all of those.
Yeah, you could definitely see that being the case. And if that is the case, bearing in mind the fixtures that Arsenal and City have got in those next 4 games, you can definitely see them dropping points. But I just think when it comes to playing, I know they had that absolute humdinger of a game against City earlier in the season, which finished 3-3, and they've just taken points off Arsenal as well. I just feel like they're not going to be consistent enough against some of the smaller teams. We saw them they draw 0-0 with Leeds, wasn't it, last week or the week before?
Yeah.
So it feels like they're the sorts of games where they're more likely to not pick up points, whereas City and Arsenal, more often than not, will be getting 3 points in games like that, especially at home.
And Newcastle are quite a bit back in terms of points, so it is just...
They had that slow start to the season. Remember, they drew a lot of their games at the start of the season, so they were starting from behind. I know their form since then has been incredible, and they are hunting down the top 2. But I just think they won't have enough steam. They could do some more business in January as well. Bear in mind, obviously, they've got a lot of money in the bank, so we'll see what they do there.
Very, very interesting to see how they perform.
Still with Isak to come back from injury?
Yeah, Isak, well, he played, didn't he, on the weekend? Plays in the FA Cup, so he could really, really add something to their attack that they were missing before. St. Max on the bench as well. Absolutely adore him. He's probably my favourite player outside of Liverpool. Well, including Liverpool.
I was going to say, yeah. I think you can include Liverpool in that now.
But yeah, absolutely love St. Max. Just such a fun player to watch. So really excited for him to be back.
I think he'll only be a bench player now, though. He will be someone that comes on to make an impact in games, especially if you've got if you're trying to break a team down after 60 minutes and you haven't broken them down. They are not going to want Alan St. Maximin to come off the bench fresh and run at your tired defenders.
Yeah, that's true, but he's good enough to start. I actually think he threatens Almiron's place. Look,
if you've seen Almiron's form,
since we got back, 1 goal in 3 games.
Shut up.
So it's not quite what it was before the break. That being said, I love Almiron and I hope he can pick it up again, especially for me on FPL. Right, lots to look forward to. Exciting weekend ahead. Don't make any transfers to after the City League Cup game because that could really do you over if KDB breaks his leg or something. Other than that, though, have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you all next week. You can find us on Twitter at BigAtTheBack.
Yep, you can find me at Higgins92. Tom is at TomMadden92. Yep, still that 1 game to go, of course, in the double as well. Wait until the League Cup fixtures are all over and done with, and just be sensible. Actually, no, don't be sensible. Do whatever you think's fun. Use your transfers. Burn them now. Get them out of the way. Take Haaland out of your team. You don't need him. Just leave all the points to us.